Hey, this is Dayspring with Power of X-Men.
This is Sailor Tortilla.
This is Miracle from Magical Melody.
This is Brooke with the Sailor Moon Fan Network, and you're tuned in to Double Moonlight Justice
with Z and Grayson.
Moonlight Justice.
Hey Sailor Guardians, you are tuned in to Double Moonlight Justice. Moonlight Justice is a fan podcast dedicated to the hit manga anime franchise Sailor Moon. We are your Sailor hosts. I'm Grayson.
And I'm Z.
So here on Moonlight Justice, we adhere to the power of three. The power of three are principles we abide by as your Sailor hosts. 1. Practice controversy with civility. We will respectfully discuss our thoughts and opinions without a feeling of judgment. Things can always be discussed constructively and positively. And last but not least, we will not engage in racism, xenophobia, phobias, or triggers. However, these topics might be addressed in correlation with our discussion. So you are tuned in to our very first edition of DJ Moonlight Justice, where we will talk about our favorite Sailor Moon Crystal moments and share our favorite Sailor Moon Crystal songs that span the Sailor Moon Crystal series, including Eternal and Cosmos. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Z, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling okay. Yeah. I'm really excited that we're doing like our own DJ Moon type weeks. I'm very, very excited.
Yes. So
how about you, G? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Work has been busy. I have been doing way too many projects on the side. I've been drawing a lot more. I started my YouTube channel called Henshin Yo, which is a fan animation project where I'm like taking footage from the 90s series and making things that we wanted to see in the 90s but didn't get to see, but we saw in like Crystal, Eternal, and Cosmos. So I'm using some footage from an upscale project called Project Nostalgia, which is giving us a like super HD color corrected version of the series. They are in the second season of Sailor Moon right now, Sailor Moon R. So as more of the footage comes available, I'll be able to do more fan animation. Right now, I'm just focusing on doing like, sound effects and stuff like that are tied to the series. I'm even pulling sound effects from PGSM.
Ooh.
I'm writing Lost Soldier. Z was so grateful to Z for being my editor-in-chief.
I do what I can.
So the first part of the Masquerade chapter is out. It is based off of the prompts from Usalama Week in 2024, so I'm really excited for the chapter, and it is coming along great. I'm still working on part 2, but part 1 was so thrilling to write, and I was so excited to get Z to read it and edit it for me because it was so good.
It's so good. Oh my gosh. I don't want to say too much because y'all have to read it for yourselves, but it was such a wonderful read.
I'm reading The Mark of Chaos and Creation by Arabella Federico. She's a big Sailor Moon fan, and so her book is her premise of her book is like, what if Tuxedo Mask was the villain?
Ooh.
So I am like halfway through the book right now. It's so good. Definitely like some subtle Sailor Moon stuff and not so subtle Sailor Moon stuff. Like one of the characters' name is Malachite. And the group that the main character Kara is in is called Starseeds. I have been chatting back and forth with the author, and she has agreed to come on the podcast when I finish reading the first 2 books out of the series. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh my gosh, that's so
So
cool.
I'm definitely gonna have to get Z to read the book too because it's really good. I may have to send her a copy or something like that. So, what else? Yeah, what else has been? I think that's pretty much everything. So Z, you mentioned that you're really excited about this segment of Double Moonlight Justice because it's based off of DJ Moon from PGSM. So could you explain to the audience what DJ Moon is exactly?
Yes. Okay. So DJ Moon was basically a radio show that they did back when PGSM was airing, so around 2003/2004. And there would be live radio segments where it'd be some of the Senshi or all the Senshi just talking, and there'd be like little plot points. But they would also, like eventually when they get the recorded segments, they would eventually combine it into an album. So they'd have the live radio segments that would play live on air that contain these fun little plot points, and then they'll mingle it with music from the show, both like the original soundtrack, so instrumentals, things of that nature, and also the character songs.
Nice. Okay, so in tradition with DJ Moon, we did our first question. So Z, can you tell us the first song we're going to be listening to?
Okay. The first song we're going to listen to is Moonbow or Gecko, which is from Sailor Moon Crystal. It is specifically the ending song from season 1 and 2, and it's sung by Mamoru Cloverseed.
Nice. All right, so that was Gecko by Momoclo from Sailor Moon Crystal series. I kind of answered this in the last question, was like, what have you been up to lately? And in addition to how I was feeling. So Z, what have you been doing lately? And I know you've been doing a lot. I'm so excited for you to tell us.
Okay. I think one of the main things that I have been doing is working on my PGSM Sailor Jupiter 2.0 Fuku build. I'm really excited because I'm at the stage where I personally see a lot of things coming together. The most recent aspect that I finished up was the chest armor. I have a little bit more left to do, but I'm really excited about how it looks and how it turned out. It was a very, very extensive process. Shouts out to Lucero Cosplay for helping me navigate that. But I got some more thread, so I'm going to hopefully start on the collar as well as start on that hip roll, get that finished up. And I actually already started cutting out the fabric, so hopefully the glove will get finished here very, very soon. I'm using a lot of different fabric types because my goal is to Fuku that I made, but I also want to kind of hopefully make it feel like it came out of PPSM, right? Because a lot of different material differentiates it from how you would see it in the anime or like even in the musicals. So that's been the main thing I'm working on because I'll be able to hop back on that boat here very soon.
It looks so good.
I've been doing internship stuff. I was wondering when you.
I've been waiting. I have been waiting to jump in because I have been eyeballing, eagle eyeing this project. And the chest armor looks like, even just from what you have assembled so far, it looks so good. And I like how you went with the original chest protector, because I remember saying, I was like, oh, she didn't do the little elastic with the little sleeve. Like, she did it as one whole piece. It looks really good.
Yep. Oh my gosh. The research, not even like the research, but the screenshots and pictures I took of their sleeves alone fills up a whole folder on my computer. Because like they do, like G mentioned, like later in the show, they end up getting like elastic on their sleeves. I guess because this is when the chest armor was losing its durability per se. But I kind of went with how it originally looked, and I guess like what they wanted it to look like initially, like a full little shoulder piece that attaches, no strings attached, quite literally.
Right.
But I think it looks Gucci. I'm glad you think it looks Gucci. I'm really excited about how
it
it
looks really good. It looks, it's solid. I love it.
Yep, hopefully I'm gonna do some poses in that. We'll see in a few months.
Okay, so the next song we have coming up is Moon Pride by Momoclo, which is the opening song for the Crystal Revival. It was the first theme song created for the Crystal Revival series, and it took the world by storm when it came out. So we're really excited. 'All right, so that was Moon Pride by Momoclo. So Z, Sailor Moon Crystal pretty much follows the manga more closely than the 90s anime did. Do you think that was a good decision, or do you think they should have went with more original content for Sailor Moon Crystal?
Good question. I think it's good that they somewhat had a faithful adaptation. Personally, I think that kind of grounds the story a little bit more.
Yes.
Especially if you want to introduce Sailor Moon to like a new audience, quote unquote, a new generation. They could have something that they can follow along that for the most part is verbatim to the story. And if they want to reference back to the manga, they can, and they have visuals to kind of juxtapose the two with.
Right. That's a great framing. I agree 100%. I think, because I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, I would have preferred them to do more original content. But when you said like it's for new fans, it's for a new generation, you're like, absolutely. I think Crystal was better than readapting the 90s anime, because the 90s anime had over 200 episodes, whereas the manga had fewer acts than the 90s anime. I do like that it does tie in some of the original animation. It references the original animation for the 90s anime in Crystal to give the original fans or the older fans some reminiscence in the new Crystal series. I do like that it was tied to the manga. It definitely grounds the story more. It's more digestible that way.
Yeah.
So I agree. If I wanted to change anything, I would say I would like to have seen a mix between the two, where it followed the manga more closely, but had more 90s anime like moments tied to it, kind of like a mix between the two. But I do like that it did. The manga is my favorite medium anyway, so I enjoyed it 100% story wise. No complaints there. Okay. Z, what's our next song?
Our next song is Nu Moon ni Koshite, or Fall in Love with the New Moon. This is a version of the season 3 opening of Sailor Moon Crystal, and it is by Mamoru Clover Z.
'Okay, so that was Fall in Love with the New Moon by Momoclo.
Yes.
I didn't like that song as much as Moon Pride, but it definitely was a nice change for season 3.
Yeah, it was a good pace.
It was good pace. And I think it was a good change because season 3 signified a complete change in the animation for Sailor Moon Crystal as a whole in comparison to the first 2 seasons. So not only did we get new animation, we also got, it was like called Sailor Moon Crystal Season 3.
3, yep.
Yes.
Like a definitive marker sequence.
Right. So we talked about animation, and speaking about animation changes and animation in general when it came to Sailor Moon Crystal, which transformation sequence in Crystal do you think was the most visually stunning? And we're talking Crystal Season 1 and 2, Season 3, Eternal, and Cosmos. So out of the series, what transformation do you think was the most stunning?
Oh my gosh. That is a hard question. Oh, that's so hard. But if I had to pick one, because I think a lot of my faves are in this particular season, I gotta go with Cosmos. And specifically Eternal Sailor Moon. But it's a partial bias because that's my favorite like Fuku design. But I like how a revitalization, for lack of a better word, for because like, you know, they make a lot of homages and fun little Easter eggs to the 90s anime. And they very brilliantly, put it up in beautiful saturation. And I love how it's animated, and the sounds are really pretty, and it screams final form to me, if that makes sense, just with its vibrancy and the overall tone that it sets. So I have to go with Eternal Sailor Moon Cosmos. That's got to be, if not my favorite, then definitely a top fave.
Okay, so I do. So you're right about the homages, because the inner senshi and the outer senshi, for the most part, are homages to their 90s anime transformations. Sailor Moon is the only one, and Chibi Moon are the only ones that get completely original transformations in the new series. So I thought that was very interesting that while they paid homages to the inner and outer senshi, Sailor Moon, Chibi Moon, for the most part, have gotten completely original transformations. So visually, the most visually stunning transformation. That's tough.
It
Um,
is a lot of factors to consider.
so, gosh, so honestly, I'm going to have to say the most visually stunning transformation to me in the entire series was Sailor Chibi Moon's Pink Moon Crystal Power transformation from Sailor Moon Cosmos. I think that was beautifully done. It was completely original. Something like I've never seen before. I have to say, like, if an honorable mention, okay, if I had to pick my favorite, it would probably have to be Sailor Kakyu, like Princess Kakyu transforming.
Yeah.
But as far as visually stunning, I think Chibi Moon like takes the cake for me. Even more so than Eternal Sailor Moon. Like, and Eternal Sailor Moon got a few transformations in the series.
She did.
But it was good to see Chibi Moon shine in that way. So next up on our song lineup is Starline, the new single by the Three Lights from the Sailor Moon Cosmos soundtrack. All right, so that was Starline by the Three Lights from Sailor Moon Cosmos. Z, the pacing of Sailor Moon was much faster than the 90s anime. Do you think this helped or hurt the revival series?
Ooh. I think probably because it puts this soft expectancy of, oh, I know the story, I know how this goes, I know how it flows. So you kind of project that on this new series, and it's like, oh, this isn't how I anticipated it. Therefore, I want to say it kind of hurt it a little bit. It didn't give it, the new series, like its own breath, for lack of a better word. I'm gonna say it hurt it a little bit. That's an interesting question, though. I'm gonna ponder that. I want to hear your thoughts, though, but I'm gonna ponder that for a minute.
So we talked about how we agreed that Sailor Moon Crystal, in general, is for the new generation.
Yes.
New fans that are getting into Sailor Moon that don't really have the capacity to sit down and watch 200 episodes of the original 90s anime. And they want to see something more beyond the pages of the original manga. So while I do appreciate for the most part, faithful adaptation, because there are some creative liberties that Crystal does take that don't line up with the original manga story, I do think it was a missed opportunity to flesh out some of those manga concepts that Mayoko originally introduced in the manga. And I don't know what type of deadline they were on, to get this show done because we did not get a Sailor V prequel or show. We did not get any of the manga side stories that Naoka had written out, which would have been great, like little shorts to have as part of the series. Even some of the like character defining moments were not fleshed out, like when Jupiter powers up into Sailor Jupiter in Super Sailor Jupiter in Eternal. I honestly preferred the pages of the manga in comparison to the movie, just because it just gave Mako-chan a little more depth in the pages than it did in the movie. It just felt, I think that's like where pacing like and story development comes into. I wish it was a little more involvement in the storytelling and fleshing out those ideas to give it some more meat on the bones, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. I agree.
So I was like, yeah, it was enjoyable, but for the most part, it's like it leaves you wanting more. I'll say that.
Yeah. I agree. But then I also asked the question to leave you wanting more, and therefore maybe you go find the original source material, like the manga, or you check back to the 90s anime and you see where it all began.
Yeah. That's an interesting tactic to take.
I don't know if that's probably not what their intentions were, but
right.
That's the question that I had in my mind. Like, would that be like, oh, I finished Sailor Moon Crystal. What else is there? Oh, there's a 90s anime. Let me just watch this. And then you kind of see, like, I don't know, you go back to the beginning.
Trying to think, but yeah, it definitely kept me wanting more. Definitely, there were some missed opportunities. I would give it a solid 8 out of 10.
Solid 8.
Yeah.
I agree. I give it a solid 8.
Okay, so what's our next song, Z?
Our next song is Makoto Kino's image song, Cherry Pie, which is for Sailor Moon Crystal Season 1 and 2.
Nice.
土砂降りの空と泣いていた昨日の私はもういないけどその雫もあの涙も今日の私につながってる太陽の下できらめいて笑顔のつぼみ膨らませて毎日ちゃんと育ててゆくんだ私だけに咲くこんな気持ち
So that was Cherry Pie, the Sailor Jupiter image song from Sailor Moon Crystal Season 1 and 2. So Z, how do you feel about the character design in Crystal compared to the 90s anime? Do you prefer the softer look of the 90s or the more manga-accurate style of Crystal?
Ooh, oh my gosh. I've actually been doing research on these anime for reasons that I can't share yet. But I actually... it might be coming soon, we'll see.
You keep your secret, Z. Now I want to know.
I think both have their strengths. But I think I actually kind of lean a little bit more into the 90s design. And I think, again, partial bias or research that I've done, but I love aesthetic and the, I want to say hand-drawn effect, because I know animation is much more digital, at least when it happened, at least with how it was done in like 2014 and so forth and whatnot. But I kind of like the process as to how they brought these animations to life within the 90s counterpart. So I think with Crystal, like they draw it out, but then it goes on the computer, things get scanned, and it's a lot. I don't want to say it's a lot less handiwork involved, because I think both have a big decent amount of work, and I'm not an animator by any means necessary. I've only done that once, and that was an effort. was effort, but I think I like the draw and the vibe, I guess, overall of the 90s.
Okay.
That was very long-winded.
No,
I
that
guess.
was perfect. I loved every minute of it.
Thank you.
I agree. Like, I definitely like. I think, and I'm on the fence a little bit, but I loved when they first announced Sailor Moon Crystal, and I saw the preview animation of Sailor Moon doing her famous Oshiokyo pose. I was really stoked to see that style done, to see the manga come to life. Like, I think that was a defining moment for me. But I do prefer the 90s, specifically like mid-season 2 on. I'm not a big fan of the early designs, but it's the early design. So what do you expect?
Yeah.
But I love how Sailor Moon got stronger, like as it got through its midway through its second season. I wish Crystal would have kind of gotten its footing similarly, animation and design wise. It didn't really catch on until Eternal and Cosmos. But I think also Eternal and Cosmos harkens back to the original 90s style, which is one of the reasons why those two were popular. But I feel like if season 1 and 2 were more consistent with their design and animation choices, we wouldn't have had gone through so many stylistic changes from season 3 on, in my opinion. What do you think, Sue?
I agree. No, I agree. I think if they were, because we talked about time crunches, basically. We talked about time crunches with, like, what was the allotted time were they given to complete said things. I wonder if that's probably things turned out the way they did. And you wonder, well, if they were actually given the space, given that dedicated time to really put some thought and put the further dedication into what they're doing, could it have achieved that similar timeline? And two, that's when things kick in.
Right. Okay, Z, what's our next song?
Our next song is one of my favorites in all of Sailor Moon Crystal. It is Eien Dake ga Futari wo Kakeru, or Only Eternity Brings the Two Together, which is Mamoru Chiba's image song from Sailor Moon Crystal Season 3.
All right.
Eien dake ga futari wo kakeru. Okay, I'm done.
Some fans had strong opinions about the CGI transformations in the first season. Did you like or dislike them, and why?
first watch through, later watch throughs, I could understand why people might not like it, but I wonder, similar to like the animation style as a whole, if it's something that could have been worked on and like potentially perfected given more time. Because I think it's a cool concept to visualize a magical girl transformation sequence, to bring it into this 3D aspect, to bring it into this open world type thing, compared to it, I say being flat, but not like being flat in the sense of like it's dull, but just like it's two-dimensional.
Right.
Just kind of getting the space of a magical sequence. I think it's a cool concept if they got a little more time to cook with it.
Okay.
What about you, G?
For me, I think I'm going to echo, like, when it talks about like fans having strong opinions. I think the strong opinions from fans is that they didn't want Sailor Moon to be an installment of the Precure series. There's anything wrong with Precure. I love Precure, but a lot of people were recognizing that a lot of the like individuals that were connected with the new Sailor Moon series were alumni from the Precure fandom. So that was like their main concern, was like, I don't want this to be a Precure Sailor Moon. So people were very interested to see how the transformations were going to be, because people were concerned that they were going to do the bendy arms and legs that you tend to see in Precure anime.
Yeah.
So the CGI was not a surprise to me, because I saw them do something similar in Go Princess Precure. But it was backwards in a sense, because Go Princess Precure did the attacks in their 3D animation, but the transformations in a 2D style. So, and I think like even the 2D style had some mix with like 3D objects, like their transformation items were 3D objects. So,
yeah.
I guess for me, it's like coming from the 90s anime, it's like the transformations are always going to be like they're always going to be questionable when it comes to the interpretations of Sailor Moon transformations in any new medium, PGSM included.
Okay.
So,
because I guess I was going to say, maybe that's why I liked it initially, because it reminded me of PGSM.
right.
Given that it's a live action counterpart and it fills the space. It's 3-dimensional, technically 4-dimensional, think about it. But like it's 3-dimensional. Like it's similar footing.
Right.
Similar footing.
I guess for me, it's like when I watch the 90s Sailor Moon anime, I'm looking forward to the transformations. Whereas in like Crystal or PGSM or even Sarah Miu, that doesn't have a lot of transformations to begin with, they become more of a footnote than anything else in the series. Like you look more forward to the character development and the story than you are the transformations and the attack sequences.
That's fair.
Yeah, because I felt that way about PGSM, where it's just like, as I was not, I guess for me it was like, I loved the concept of the PGSM transformations. Like they kind of like did this thing before Precure even did, where they changed their hair color and their hairstyle.
Yep.
I love that. I love that concept of it. I think the 3D Sailor Moon hair kind of threw me off.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have liked to see. I would like to see. I know we're kind of going off tangent here, but I would like to see like with newer tech. And it's like it was 2003, so technology was not the best then as it is now. So I would love to see like with the current CGI technology what they come up with for a Sailor Moon transformation. Sailor Moon Crystal kind of like got an advantage on newer technology over the older series, and it's just, I guess for me it just didn't drive it home for me. It was just like, you almost got it, but you didn't.
You're almost there.
Because it's like I could see, and I guess for me it was like even the animation style between the 3D transformations and the actual 2D animation did not line up 100%. And I think that harkens back to that we need consistency. Where it's like, if you're going to do 3D, do 3D. If you're going to do 2D, do 2D. But you need to be consistent with what you're doing, because let's not be like, I guess for me it was like, I don't see, I can understand why fans felt strongly about it, because CGI was not a prominent thing in Sailor Moon Crystal. It was featured briefly in the opening and featured briefly in the transformation scenes, but you don't see it beyond that.
Yeah.
So I guess it's like if you're going to meld the two or, incorporate this into the series, then you need to go ahead and just go all out and do that. Like don't do the short stock footage attack sequences, turn it into a full-blown CGI moment. Like, you've invested in this, go ahead. Like, I would love to have seen Moon and Tiara Boomerang, Mercury Aqua Mist, and Jupiter Thunderbolt done in that CGI style. Like that would, like, I think for me it's like those like transformations were signifying a special moment with that CGI effect. If they did the same thing with the attacks, I think it would have brought Crystal home for me.
Yeah, that's a cool idea too.
Yeah. All right, so keep it in theme with our Tuxedo Mask Chiba Mamoru theme songs. The next song we have coming up is Moonrise of Your Eyes.
夜をまとい街に降りる銀河のまどろみさまよう記憶の背に目を凝らして誰を呼ぶ遥か遠くたどる光答えを探して懐かしい痛みさえも自分という証明なら運命ごと取り戻してみせる今の俺のままでそらせない視線の先にまばゆさ放つ輪郭選ぶ道は一つそれは愛のムーンライズ届きたい面影を持って鼓動が目指す彼方へ守るべき約束の人と出会うために
All right, so that was Moonrise of Your Eyes, the Tuxedo Mask Chiba Mamoru Emmett song from Sailor Moon Crystal. Z, what was your favorite emotional moment from Sailor Moon Crystal?
Oh no! The cheap answer is to say yes, because the whole show is very emotional for me.
I watched, I saw.
Element every piece. But I think the most emotional for me, this also might be, it's not a cheap answer because it's an emotional answer. Maybe the end of Sailor Moon Cosmos, because it really felt like kind of similar to PGSM because I followed my own, but it really felt like a chapter was ending. Yes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They played a song. But like that's when that was the second time it hit for me that like, oh, this is it. Like this is all. Curtains closed. Shut the book. It's over. And I just remember sitting there, when Usagi's like married
Oh.
and like the happy marriage song plays, and mind you, I'm sitting in my room a bit past 1, 2 in the morning. I'm bawling my eyes scene because it's like, oh, this is Sailor Moon is infinite, but this feels like finite in a way because it's like, oh, this is the last bits of the story down to the dialogue. What more can there be? Sailor Moon is eternal, but for some reason this story doesn't want to be right now. So, so I'm sitting here crying my eyes out, like, oh, man. Because I think it comes from a place of seeing the beginning, seeing the middle, seeing the end,
Okay.
and then that's it.
Oh.
Yeah.
I can relate that, like, that resonates with me because I felt that way watching the end of the 90s anime when it was just like we're watching the ending sequence of the Sailor Moon 90s anime and you're still waiting for that preview to come and Usagi's voice to tell you what's going to happen next, and it's literally this is the end. Like, it was like that was it, like no more episodes to play. I felt the same way reading the end of the manga. It was just like, wow, it's such a, the door is closing on this story. Like, it's been 18 volumes of the original manga, and even watching, like, I think that's what made Cosmos such an eternal emotional journey, because it was like, it was the end, it was a definitive end to the Sailor Moon Crystal series. But I have to say that was my favorite emotional moment from Crystal was from season 1.
Oh,
when Tuxedo Mask takes that fatal blow to save Sailor Moon's life and she becomes Princess Serenity.
Oh, that's
and
a good moment.
He gets taken away from her, and she screams Mamo-chan at the end of the episode, and I was floored. Kotono Mitsuishi's performance in that scene specifically blew my mind away. We were so excited to have Kotono back as Sailor Moon, and I was like worried because she's like 10, 15 years older than she was when she was Sailor Moon for the first time, and to see her come back and deliver such a raw emotional performance was mind-blowing to me, and it still sticks out to me to this day.
That's a good moment. I think my next moment is actually from season 1 as well. So that's just setting the foundations.
What moment was that?
It's got to be when the curse essentially is kind of broken off of the generals, and there's that moment of recognition between the Senshi and the generals, and then boom!
Oh,
the way that blew me the first time I saw that, 'cause it's like, oh my gosh, like they're really gonna get their happy ending to some degree, and it just gets robbed so quickly, and I feel like you don't even really get much of a chance to react to what happened because they have to keep pushing. And they have to keep going.
Yeah, that's
that.
wild.
Oh my gosh, that one got real bad.
Yeah, my other favorite emotional moment is from season 2 when Jupiter goes against Pets.
Oh,
and she delivered that sparkling wide pressure like it was her last. And she fainted and she got captured, and the way Venus and Moon went after her and cried her name, I got choked up. I was like, oh my god. I rewind it all the time just to see that little segment, because it's just like, it was just so like, and just in that small moment, like, and I guess for me it's like, you don't have to have like super long or filler episodes to get those emotional moments, and I wish Crystal really capitalized on building up to those moments to make them that much more impactful. Because I think it's like, for us, they're impactful for us because we have taken the time to invest in these characters from the series that we started with, which is why we're emotionally invested. But if I'm a new fan and I'm looking into it, it's like, why are they so torn up about they just met this girl? Like, you know, because it's so fast paced. So, but yeah, those are some Crystal has its key emotional moments. Like, it knows how to tug on the heartstrings.
Mm-hmm.
Z, what's our next song? Yes.
Our next song is Ami Mizuno's image song from Sailor Moon Eternal, Formula in Blue.
幼き頃の寂しさがまだ絡む方程式例えめような数式でさえ導けない孤独から逃げたくて必死に目を凝らす本当の私は今難問の途中守るものがあると気づいたから私はそう変われたこの決意を青く輝いて選ばれた戦士
That was Formula in Blue, the Mizuno Ami / Sailor Mercury image song from Sailor Moon Eternal. Z, which character do you think benefited the most from Crystal's more faithful manga adaptation?
It's a group. I'm gonna say the Starlights and Kaku.
Okay.
Let's say that group. Second honorable mention, or first honorable mention is Queen. But I think seeing the Star, I don't know. I feel like they got a little bit more in Crystal. If that makes sense. It probably doesn't make sense. I'm being very vague, but like kind of seeing them and seeing what all they can do. And then thinking of Princess Kaku's transformation sequence, and there are things that she can do. I think that was really cool to see. And I'm gonna throw in Sailor Cosmos as well, because she got I don't think she got any kind of mention within the 90s per se. So kind of getting to see in like Chibi Chibi this and what she does.
Okay.
I think the whole cast greatly benefited.
Okay.
Another thing to ponder on, but
I know, right? Because I was not thinking that. Like, I definitely think that I think Cosmos like got some more time to shine, but she's definitely just as ambiguous as she was in the manga.
Yep.
I think we talked about this in the last podcast, where I wish we would have seen montage of the various characters that were introduced in Cosmos, kind of like get their like finale moment, because we didn't you don't see them at the wedding or anything like that. It's just assumed they're back on their plan. So I would have liked to have seen some more finality with those characters.
Same.
Especially Starlights and Kaku, like they definitely got more time to shine. But in the 90s anime, they got to go home. we get to see them go home. Like, they get to say their goodbyes, from the connection that they made on Earth. They get to go back to their planet and stuff like that. So, but honestly, I think that the character that most benefited from Crystal's more faithful manga adaptation is Sailor Moon.
I had a feeling you were gonna say her.
This is her story.
Yep.
I think that's kind of like the difference between PGSM, the 90s anime, where it's like the characters, not just Sailor Moon, but the other characters get their own development, their own stories, their own friends, and stuff like that. This Cosmos, the manga, is Sailor Moon's story. Just like Sailor V was her story, Sailor Moon is Sailor Moon's story, and the Crystal adaptation definitely like she benefited from the telling of the Crystal series, because it basically follows her journey, the people she's connected with along the way, and the emotional investments that she's made, and how much she has evolved from the crybaby girl that didn't want to fight the first Yoma from the Dark Kingdom to using her own Sailor Crystal to reset the entire galaxy and save everyone at the expense of her own life. Like, this is like, it's just like, it's a coming of age story for Sailor Moon in general, where it's just like we've seen her grow exponentially over the span of the entire series. And
That's such a beautiful
I feel like it's a Miss Universe answer in a sense, because it's Sailor Moon, but it's like at the same time, it's like we talked about this.
But it makes yeah.
And maybe that's the notes that, you know, Naoko gave the creative team, where it's like, yes, I know people love the 90s anime, and I know they love PGSM. I know they have come to love the characters that they have, how they have been represented in the mediums that they have taken place. But they are all supporting characters to the main character, Sailor Moon.
Like, that really puts some things in perspective.
Yeah.
To say that. Like, that is a really beautiful answer, and it genuinely makes sense.
And I guess, and it's like, and it may not have been Naoko, it may have just been the director or the producers or whatever, but it's like Naoko did take the time to flesh out the friendships and relationships that these characters had. Like, if we had gotten Casablanca Memories or the exam battles, we would have gotten glimpses into these characters that we would have normally not gotten if they were not written in the manga. So it's just like, for me, it's like, harkening back to what we were talking about earlier, it was a missed opportunity on Crystal's part to include these side stories, including Sailor V, to kind of flesh out these characters in their own way. And it didn't have to be in the airing. It could have just been a little bonus feature on the DVD. It could have been a little short anime. It could have been like Ami's First Love just before the Supers movie premiered in the 90s. Could have done the same thing. It didn't have to be a super long thing. You could have done that. So I'm wondering why it didn't work out that way.
These are the questions that we have.
Right.
If anybody knows the answer, if you're a producer or somebody that worked on Sailor Moon Crystal per se, we would love to know.
Right. So while you guys ponder on that, we're going to play our next song, Dream Eyes, by the Amazon Trio from the Sailor Moon Eternal soundtrack.
私の目輝く夢見フィルガワイヤ直ちに鏡開きこちらへいらっしゃい Yeah yeah I don't need to lie 闇夜にきらり合わせ鏡幸か不幸かもう夢もわからないまま私を見破ってくれしないかしらさ明かりを始めましょうどれにしましょう気高く分身の術よタイガースはここにいつの日かアーティストにご覧遊ばせ Oh Amazon トリオミラ隠れするのは甘い甘いわだ Oh Amazon トリオミラ映し出すのは夢になるわだ Checkmate 狙ったら獲物もラストモーメント夢見てた自分のお店それでは回転回転じゃんじゃん
しゃいませ希望詰まってはち切れそうなあなた美しいのよ僕すら読めない花の人間世界
Okay, so that was Dream Eyes by the Amazon Trio from the Sailor Moon Eternal soundtrack. Z, if Sailor Moon Crystal were to continue with the Sailor Stars arc, what would you want to see done differently from the previous adaptations? So to kind of clarify, if Sailor Moon Cosmos was Sailor Stars instead and was its own full-blown season, what would you have liked to see done differently in comparison to the 90s anime? Just like my mind is racing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go first. So maybe this will give you a little time to ponder and maybe give you some things to chew on.
You already got your answers. Go.
So some things I would like to see. So I think Cosmos kind of like gave us what we wanted, but for the most part, like I said, I would have liked to have we would have gotten the opportunity to see individual eternal transformations for all the Senshi, inner and outer.
Yes.
I would have liked to see more elaborate transformations for the Starlights. And I think it would still be like I still want it to be faithful to the manga. And that's the one thing that we talked about when Cosmos was first coming out was like, Sailor Stars fans, please come into Sailor Moon Cosmos like it's a brand new movie you've never seen before in your life, because the minute you start comparing it to the 90s anime, you're going to be disappointed, especially Seiya Usa fans. So I think that keeping in line with the manga adaptation was key. I think it's just capitalizing on those like fan service homage moments, the transformations. Like I would have liked to see the Sailor Quartet shine a little bit more. They could have benefited from a little more screen time, their own transformations, their own relationship building with Chibi Moon. I would have liked to see the Anima mates transform as well, and probably get a little more backstory on what it was like on their planets and stuff like that, and like what happened when Galexia came along. Like, I think it's like wanting to expand on the lore of the manga that has been put in place by Naoko, in comparison to the fast pacedness of the manga. And I know that those characters were like they served their purpose, for the story. And I think that like when you're a mangaka writing and drawing these stories, you're like, I don't have time. I'm on a deadline. I don't have time to deep dive. This is the end. As much as I would like to, get into the nitty gritty of of the lore and the details. And I talked about this with Korza Moon, where it's just like, I think that Naoko intentionally didn't do a lot of exposition and explanation so we can have something to talk about. And if I tell you everything, then you won't have anything to talk about because I explained it all to you. But if I leave it open to interpretation, the reader gets to decide or speculate on the what, whys, and wherefores that this is all taking place. Does that help, Z?
It does, because I think you kind of basically gave my answer. I don't know if I would want to see any kind of changes, because I think that would get rid of potential question marks.
Right.
And sure, it could make things more straightforward, but would that leave space for discussion, space for potential interpretations, and just space for the unknown? Because I'm not gonna lie, I do love me a good little deep dive. I love me a good little deep dive. I really do. But if I'm given the whole plate and I'm given the meats and the potatoes, then will I want the dessert? I know that's such a weird comparison or a weird metaphor, simile, what have you.
Right.
But I just don't, off the top of my head, I don't know if there's anything I would want differently aside from what you said. Like, I do agree with everything that you said. I think that would be really cool to like see some areas be expounded upon.
Right.
Based off of what was initially said and given within the manga.
Right.
But keeping the integrity of the story. I don't know.
I agree.
So, kind of a question mark, which is kind of funny, but I don't.
Yeah, it's something to think about, for sure.
You're giving me a lot to ponder on, a lot for our listeners.
All right, so what's our next song, Z?
So our next song, it is "I'm Going Down," which is a character song for the Generals.
なぜ背負ってしまっただろうこれほどに悲しさダメなら
なぜ出会ってしまったのか結ばれない愛しき人よ生まれた日から刻み続けるカウントダウン誰もが命の終わりに向かって Don't stop 戦うだけ落ちてゆけばそこにあるのは安らぎか絶望という名の苦しみですかあの日触れた優しいその痛みを時の果てで抱きしめるよ
So that was "I'm Going Down" by the Shinno, or the Generals, from Sailor Moon Crystal Season 1.
Yes.
Z, last but not least, if you could add one original scene or episode to Crystal, what would it be and why?
Oh, the power in my hands and in my head. Oh my goodness. I gotta add one episode.
One episode or an original scene?
Let's go full shoujo. Give me a beach episode. Give me something all the characters are able to be themselves and kind of exist and have fun and not have to always worry about the next big thing. I would like something to that equivalence.
Okay. This is a tough one. It's like one original scene, original episode. It's just like one scene or one episode is not enough. Give me 10. Give me 14 of them right now.
Give me a sub arc.
Right. If I had to like add an original scene or an episode, it would probably be an extension of season 1 when Sailor Moon and the Inner Senshi travel to the moon to talk to Queen Serenity.
Ooh.
I think I would like to see similar to the 90s anime where it's like some moments from the final battle against Metalia and Queen Beryl in the Dark Kingdom. Probably some character and in that scene, some character interactions between the Inner Senshi and the Shinno to kind of give some emotional weight to their connection in the present life and to make that emotional scene that we talked about earlier that much more impactful. Like, wow, I literally just remembered you, and now you're taken away from me. Like, I remember the connection. It wasn't a fleeting moment. It was, I just got my memories back. We just came back from the moon. I know who you are. Let me try to snap you out of it. And once I do, I lose you. And it's just like, oh my gosh, like this is like the past life all over again. I think that would be a moment that I'll put in there. And as part of that episode, part of that scene, I'll do the same thing with Endymion and the Steno.
Oh my gosh.
Like, so it's just like tying those moments together, like when the Steno realize who they are, and then they remember not just the Innocenci, but their master, their prince.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I think that would be a great tie-in to, like similar to PGSM, where they don't come back to life, but they usher Mamoru and Usagi back into present day life, back with the people that they're supposed to be with. I think that would have been a great moment to kind of like in that moment when Mamoru wakes up and he's blind. I would like to see like maybe the Steno woke him up, and I think that happened in the manga where they were like, like they were there when he woke up and they told him like, this is what you need to do. I think that would have been a great way to just those little tiny threads. You just need to connect those moments together and make them that much more impactful.
Yeah. And it goes back to that word that you brought up. It adds to the consistency of the story.
Yes.
Like, it makes things more fluid. It gives it the depth that it's just good. It's good all around.
All right, so that's all the questions we have for today's episode.
Woo!
I'm definitely looking forward to doing more DJ Moonlight Justice. We have more segments like this planned for the future because Z and I. So, to be 100% transparent,
to break it down for y'all.
You know, I reached out to Z. I asked her to do this episode, and we were so stoked. And I was like, let's just do 2 to 3 songs for, the entire Sailor Moon universe, 90s, Crystal, PGSM, Sarah Miyu. And we were like, she's like, yeah, that's great. That's perfect. I love this idea. Let's do it. Da, 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 da. Let's get together, midday on a Saturday and bang it on out. Y'all, I sent Z this invitation. I sent Z the link to join the session at 8:30, the time that she proposed for us to start. And we spent over an hour going over all the songs that we had initially planned for this episode. And we were like, and when we finished everything, we were like, we could only do a section of this list because it's jam packed. We would have been sitting here all day talking.
We literally were deliberately like songs and definitions of songs and what counts as this and then what doesn't count as that. Like it was very productive. I ain't gonna lie, it was very productive. But like we got into nuances of songs.
Right, like what defines a character song? What defines a group character song? Is a duet a group or not? Like
really diving into this. So y'all are in for a treat. We can say that. Y'all are in for a treat when it comes to these songs and the discussion, and it'll be a good old time.
Right. Okay, so our last song for today is Moon Effect. And with that, we, your Sailor hosts, bid you a good day, a good weekend. As Z would say, smile, because you always look better when you smile.
You do. You look better when you smile.
And our last song to close us out is Moon Effect by the Sailor Team from the Sailor Moon Eternal soundtrack. And we'll talk to you guys later.